The Raiders' opportunity to win 9 straight versus the Denver Broncos was intercepted away. That plus a whole lot more on Monday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for October 7th, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome here, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. And as always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, you know we appreciate that. The show continues to grow each and every day, and that's because of your support, Raider Nation, and also because of the job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making us look good, making us sound good. He does everything, right? Without him, there is no Locked On Raiders podcast on the YouTube, so we definitely appreciate that. Shout him out. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. I'm on Twitter as well, at your boy Q254. And if you ever want to be a part of the show, you know you got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. Your calls and texts, and we got plenty of feedback. We'll get that coming up in segment number 3, talking about the game, talking about Devontae, and talking about a whole lot more. So that's all coming up. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Segment number 2, Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew. Who should be the starting quarterback for Week 6? That'll come up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, and really just a recap of how the Raiders dropped to 2-3 overall in the season with a 34-18 loss to the Denver Broncos. We'll jump right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is LinkedIn Jobs. Helps you find a qualified candidate you want to talk to faster. All you got to do is post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And on Sunday, the Raiders lose to the Denver Broncos 34-18. Their overall record drops to 2-3 on the season. And really, it was just one huge momentum shift for the silver and black as they came out of the locker room, they came out of the gates, and they looked good. Gardner Minshew was 9 for 9 at one point in the game. He had already thrown a touchdown pass to rookie Brock Bowers, who, by the way, made a hell of a play, went up and just mossed the defender that was in front of him and came up with the ball that really wasn't a great pass from Gardner Minshew, but came up with the big play, ran towards the sideline, got into the end zone, got the touchdown. Then the Raiders added on a field goal, so they were up 10-0 on a team that only really averages about 13 points per game given up, right? That's what we talked about in great detail last week, was the fact that Denver's defense was so stingy, but the Raiders were making it look pretty easy early on. The defense, Max Crosby, welcome back, Max. It was great to see him. They're flying around. They're making some plays. They're getting the ball back. Bo Nix is looking like a rookie. And then Gardner Minshew, after starting out 9 for 9 in the red zone, looking like the Raiders are about to go up 17-3, again, on a team that only allows 13 points per game. Looks like they're about to go up 17-3. He's going to hit Brock Bowers. Bowers is going to turn, get into the end zone. He sails it. It's a terrible pass. Pat Surtain, the one guy you don't want to throw the ball to, comes down with it and goes 100 yards the other way and scores a touchdown. So instead of it being 17-3 or at the worst 13-3, because you're going to get at least a field goal out of that situation there, all of a sudden the game is knotted up at 10. And at that moment right there, when he threw that pass and I saw Pat Surtain come down with it, I said, as I'm sitting on my couch, you can't do that. And then I see Pat Surtain return it for a 100-yard pick six. I said, you definitely can't do that. And after that, all momentum. Uncle Mo was gone. Uncle Mo was all on the side of the Denver Broncos, and they never, ever gave him back. Minshew, for the day, 12 for 17, 137 yards, a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He ends up getting pulled. Aiden O'Connell goes in. Obviously, he goes into the game late. Didn't really matter at that situation. The Raiders were not going to make a comeback. They were already down like 3 scores. He goes 10 for 20 for 94 yards and an interception. I don't judge anything that I saw Aiden O'Connell do, good or bad. I don't hold that against him, and I don't give him flowers for it either, because at that stage of the game, the Denver defense was a lot different than it was when Gardner Minshew was in the game. It was just one of those situations where you knew Minshew wasn't it, so something had to happen. They had to go ahead and go to the bullpen, and for the second time in 5 games, the Raiders go make a call to the bullpen, and Aiden O'Connell closes out the game. Run game, still non-existent. No Zamir White. Alexander Mattison gets the start. A lot of Raider Nation was happy about that. I didn't really know where they were going to get their run game from. I know that he has been doing some really good things. Anytime he gets an opportunity to get his hands on the ball, 15 carries, 38 yards. That's only 2.5 yards per carry. So obviously that's not very good. Amir Abdullah had 5 carries for 42 yards, but one of those carries was a 40-yarder. So, you take that one big rush, you can see that the Raiders didn't do anything on the ground. 25 total carries, 115 total yards. But if you take that 140-yarder out, 24 carries for 75 yards, that's only just over 3 yards per carry. So again, their run game is non-existent. Their play calling was very predictable. Luke Getsy, after I gave him flowers for calling a good game the week before against the Cleveland Browns and said he still needs to improve and get a lot better. Well, he reverted back into a pumpkin. He was not very good at all on Sunday as far as the play calling goes. Brock Bowers, as advertised, 8 catches, 97 yards and a touchdown. Jacoby Myers, 6 catches, 72 yards. But again, none of that mattered. Once that pick six happened, Uncle Mo left the side of the Raiders, went to the Denver Broncos sideline, and never returned. Now, the Raiders were heavily penalized, something that they don't do quite a bit under Antonio Pierce, but as of late, it seems like they've been getting called for a lot more penalties. 11 penalties for 79 yards. Like they're not good enough to have that many penalties and think that they're going to overcome them. One was right before halftime. Janarius Robinson gets called for a personal foul as he was leaping over the center, and he used the back of the center to kind of project himself, trying to block a 59-yard field goal that, oh, by the way, was missed. But because he got the penalty, it was a 15-yarder, and he kicks it over again for 44 yards and drills it. So the Raiders go from having an opportunity to go up 17-3 and have all of Uncle Mo on their side to all of a sudden going into the locker room down 13-10. They had to be looking around themselves like, wait, what in the world's going on? We've absolutely dominated this game, and we're losing. But it was all after that pick six happened. When that pick six happened, it was game, set, match as far as I'm concerned. You could just see it, that all the life left the Raiders, and it never returned. As far as the Broncos and Bo Nix goes, Bo Nix probably had his second best game as a pro. I think the game against Tampa Bay was probably better, but 19 for 27, 206 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a touchdown run. He just kind of leaped over at the goal line and put the ball over the goal line and got a touchdown that way as well. The Broncos running game, 28 carries, 109 yards. So another day that the Raiders defense is not able to stop the run. Denver was able to really hang their hat. They had multiple guys running the rock. They passed the ball around the yard. Multiple guys made plays, made catches and yards after the catch. So, the Broncos had a really good day. Right, it was their salute to the 1977 team day. It was their Hall of Fame day. It was their Ring of Honor day. They had all these, different Bronco alumni there in the building, and they put on a show for them and winning 34-18, and it wasn't even really that close, right? And so Bo Nix he wasn't great. He showed why he was a rookie, but, the Raiders didn't force him into any big rookie mistakes. They didn't turn the ball over. They didn't get any interceptions. They didn't strip sack him. Max had a couple sacks, which is great, but Christian Wilkins, he has a sack, then he gets injured, and I believe he got injured, his foot, on the celebration, and not because of what he was doing, because Adam Butler decided to jump over his back while he's doing his celebration, and he immediately left the field and went to the locker room before halftime, and he never returned, and then he was ruled out pretty quickly after half. So we'll have to find out the results of Christian Wilkins. Hopefully he's okay, because he's a big force, and once he wasn't in that game, you could see that he wasn't there. You could see the impact of him not being there, what that meant. So all in all, bad performance by the Raiders. They're 2-3 now after losing 34-18 versus the Denver Broncos. So what's next? Who's going to be the starting quarterback in Week 6 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before I get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple great sponsors here, including the title sponsor, LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make that process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and even quicker. 2.5 small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. What you need to do right now is post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I also want to tell you about BetterHelp. and it's almost the Halloween time, right? I'm not a big Halloween guy. I've never have been, but Halloween lets everyone have a lot of fun with what scares you, right? People always like to dress up and like to have haunted houses and stuff like that, just to have a little bit of fun with what scares you. But what about those fears that don't involve scary haunted houses, zombies and ghosts and all that other stuff? How about things that scare you in life? How about things that you are going through that worry you, that bother you, that concern you, that you need to talk about, but you just might not have that certain person to talk about it with? And it could become very overwhelming, right? It could be one of those situations where it's bothering you so much that it's just putting you in a terrible position and you just want to talk about it. So if you're ever thinking of starting therapy, you should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you got to do is fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch to therapist anytime for no additional charge. Overcome your fears right now with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's better, the word better, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp. It's all one word, .com/lockedon. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to talk about the big elephant in the room, which is Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. Who is going to be the starting quarterback in Week 6? Who's going to be the starting quarterback moving forward for the Silver and Black? 2 times now through 5 games, Antonio Pierce has gone to Aiden O'Connell to close out the games. Now, granted, they were in games against the Carolina Panthers where the game was already out of control, and then on Sunday versus the Denver Broncos when the game was already out of control. But, again, it's 2 times in 5 games. So, of course, following the game, he was asked about the quarterback position and who's going to be that quarterback moving forward.
What are you going to do at quarterback? Will AOC be starting next week?
I don't know.
So there you go. He didn't have really much to say. You heard what he said. I don't know. Well, he also had the plane ride from Denver back to Vegas. He also had all overnight to think about it. Go back and look at the film. Sit there and meet with his coaches. Meet with the players. Do what you got to do, right? And he's supposed to speak this morning around 11 o'clock. I'm not going to be there, unfortunately. I'm actually filling in on Carlin vs. Joe on ESPN from 9 a.m. to noon Pacific time, and he's talking around 11. So not going to be there at the presser today like I normally am, but I'm assuming he's going to be asked about the quarterback position again, if he's had time to think about it, if he's made a decision. And this is just my assumption. This is not coming from a place of I know anything. Nobody's told me anything. I'm not an NFL insider. None of that. I've said that many times before. This is just, again, me going with my gut feeling. I have a feeling he's going to announce that Aiden O'Connell is a starting quarterback moving forward. And the reason why I say that, it's not like I'm just pulling something out my backside, throwing it against the wall and hoping it sticks. I'm saying that because I think it's time to see what Aiden O'Connell has, right? You've seen Gardner Minshew through 5 games. And one of the big things about Gardner Minshew getting the starting job to begin with was the first quarter of the season. The Raiders wanted to do everything they could to get off to a hot start, not only in games, but at the first quarter of the season. So they're not finding themselves in a bad position where they're trying to climb themselves out of the hole towards the end of the season and, need a lot of things to go right for them to be in the position that they are. So now you look at them right now, they're 2-3. And honestly, Raider Nation, I haven't seen anything from this team in 5 games that says, okay, yeah, that's a really good team. And I hate to say that because in training camp, their defense looked phenomenal. The defense looked like it had an opportunity to be elite. And it hasn't shown that through 5 games. Has it done well? Sure. At moments, they've been really good, right? Have they had opportunities to keep the team in games? Absolutely, right? Is it the strongest part of the team? Yes. But it's still not the defense that we all thought it was going to be, and they can't stop the run. Right, there's only been 1 game through 5 so far where they've held a rusher under 100 yards, and that was last week against Cleveland. So the defense has not done what we thought it was going to do, or at least what I thought it was going to do, live up to that end of the bargain. And the Raiders never got off to a hot start. Now, if the Raiders were 3-2 through 5 games, or 4-1 or whatever, then I would probably say, all right, well, just keep rolling with Minshew. Like I said last week, you're not going to make a quarterback change after a win. But after a loss, and you had to pull the guy for the second time, and it just looks like, especially after that pick 6, like he lost all confidence, the team lost all confidence, and it was a wrap. And, the Devontae Adams situation, that's going to work itself out. I'm not even worried about that. We know that he's out of there. They're going to trade him at some point, so I'm not even considering him part of the team. But you look at who they do have there. They have, plenty of players that can go out there and make plays, but the offense has not looked like anything that you could say, okay, this is what they do really well. right? That was one of the things, and I can't remember who it was that I had on my radio show that said this team could be good. They have to identify what they do really well and keep doing it. And through 5 games, Raider Nation, offensively, I have not seen what this team does really well. They don't run the rock really well. I know that. That's a fact. And I don't know what they do as far as the passing game. Offensively, like I just don't know the rhyme and reason, right? It just doesn't look like it's very smooth. So the first quarter, getting off to a hot start was a fail. It didn't work, right? They're 2-3 through 5 games. They're guaranteed 12 more of these bad boys. If they earn postseason action, that's awesome. But they're guaranteed 12 more of these. So I just think at this stage of the game, it would be fair to go ahead and make a move to Aiden O'Connell. You have 4 more games that you're going to play before you have the bye week, which is in week 10. And so then you can see what you got. Actually, you got 5 more. No, you got 4 more games. Yeah, that's right. My math ain't mathing, right? I never claimed to be a mathematician. I was actually told in this job there would be no math. No, but seriously, there's 4 games before the bye week, right? And the bye week is also the trade deadline. Not that I think the Raiders are going to go out there and make any big moves, but they might decide that they need to make some moves as far as trade some players off outside of Devontae Adams. I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know who that would mean. I'm not talking about 98, so don't think I'm talking about Max Crosby. But there's a chance that this thing gets really off the rails that the Raiders could make some pretty massive moves. They could decide to trade a few players and try to collect some draft capital and decide that this ain't it. You're going to have to get some draft capital and have to go back into the draft and get your quarterback. Do everything you can to go get your quarterback. But you won't know that until you see Aiden O'Connell. So since Minshew's had 5, I think it's fair that you can give the next 4 to Aiden O'Connell. And I think that you'll have a really good idea. There's a lot of people that have been calling saying Aiden O'Connell's the best option. People text me every game, Aiden O'Connell's the best option. People tweet me every game, Aiden O'Connell's the best option. Okay, well, give him the next 4 games then. Give him the next 4 games and see what he's got. See what he's made of. And if all of a sudden this offense looks like it's clicking, just like, everything looked good against Cleveland. The offense looked pretty good against Cleveland and it actually looked like, hey, without Devontae, maybe things are a little bit easier for Getsy and the quarterback. Okay, well, let's see. Let's see what the offense looks like. Let's see how Luke Getsy calls a game for Aiden O'Connell. And you can't just base it off of one game, right? I mean, I don't think it'd be right to just say, all right, we're going to take you, we're going to let you start this game and see how you do. And if you're bad, they're going to pull you. Like, that's not gonna work. So you give him the next 4 games. You see what he got. You saw what he did at the end of last season. See if he could build off that. Obviously, it's a new offense. It's new coaches calling the plays as far as Luke Getsy goes, and see if they can figure something out. And basically just see where you are going into week 10 when you're going into your bye week, and then you make decisions on the team in general. I think we pretty much know. I think we did shows about it. Like, what do the Raiders need to be going into the bye week to make you feel like they still have hope on the season, that the season they still could potentially get to the postseason? We'll know a lot about this team because I still right now can't give you the identity of this team. I don't know who this team is. Like I said, I don't know I know what their identity was supposed to be. Smash mouth, hold on to the ball a long time. The West Coast offense, the short passing and then yards after the catch and smash mouth football. And the team was going to be led by the defense. Like, I get that. And the team does, the defensive line does get to the quarterback. I can give them that. But outside of that, their identity is not really there. So, now you have an opportunity to go ahead and put a guy in that's, a little bit taller, a little bit stronger arm. Is he mobile? Can he run around? No. But, Minshew didn't really do a whole lot of that anyway. He did a little bit against Denver, picked up a couple first downs with his legs. But outside of that, he hasn't really done too much. So at this stage of the game, I don't think it's going to hurt anything. A lot of people were surprised, including myself, that Aiden O'Connell didn't get the job coming out of training camp and coming out of preseason when AP named Minshew the starting quarterback. So, all right, you've seen what he can do through 5. Now see what O'Connell could do through 4. And then I think we'll all have a good idea of who's who, what's what this team is going to be, what this team coached by AP is going to be. Because, look, make no mistake about it, AP has to win games. Right? I mean, everything that he did at the end of last year, that was fun. That was great. That was cool. Bringing back the Raider way. It brought hope. It gave me hope. It gave Raider Nation hope. It gave the players in that locker room hope. But all that doesn't matter now, right? Rainbows and puppy dogs be damned. That's done, right? Now it's all about winning games. He got the job. Mark Davis hired him to be the head coach to win games, not to pound your chest that you did a really good job as the interim coach, right? So he knows it as well. So I think just for his sake, right, to see what he's got, and then maybe he can make the argument if it doesn't work out, hey, look, I don't have a quarterback. I don't. You saw what Minshew did for 5. We've seen what O'Connell's done for 4. I need to hold on to my job because I don't have a quarterback. And once I get a quarterback, then I can show you what I can do. That's also part of his argument. And it also gives you an opportunity to see what Luke Getsy could do with Aiden O'Connell. Is Luke Getsy a better OC with O'Connell than he is with Minshew? We don't know because we haven't seen it. And we didn't get to see it consistently in preseason either, right? Because they were going back and forth. So if they make the call to O'Connell, which I think they're going to do, then all of a sudden Luke Getsy can design, or supposed to, in theory, design a game plan around Aiden O'Connell and what he does really well. The skill players are there. Brock Bowers is as advertised. Jacoby Myers is fantastic. Trey Tucker has speed. DJ Turner still trying to, carve out a role. He's still trying to grow in that, that position as a wide receiver, taking the place of Devontae. But you've got some really good pass catchers. Run game, I don't know. I don't know. I'll give you the Michael Jordan shrug. I don't know. The run game is non-existent. So I can't tell you how to fix that. But and Aiden O'Connell or Minshew is not going to help the run game. Neither one. But I think, for the next 4 games, starting this week against Pittsburgh, it would make all the sense in the world to have Aiden O'Connell as your starting quarterback. What says you? 707-654-4693. That's the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line. Your calls and texts are coming up in segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about FanDuel. And NFL fans, if you're not into FanDuel, you need to get into FanDuel, right? Get started with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, like say, you saw that Broncos and Raiders game and you saw the Broncos go in 13-10 and you're like, man, this isn't good. The Raiders are about to get curb stomped in the second half. You can go and place a bet right there in the middle of the game, right? You're going to hit the over and boom, you could have won a lot of money because nobody expected them to be that game to be very high scoring. Matter of fact, I believe the over-under was maybe 36. I want to say it was 36. The Broncos were 2.5-point favorites. Well, you could have got that hunch and you could have gone the over and you would have won since they put up 34 on their own. But you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Again, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a call from Raider Adam. He's calling to talk about the game, the momentum shift, giving his own little recap of what went wrong, and then he also throws in a little Devontae Adams convo as well. Here he is, Raider Adam.
Q, it's Raider Adam and HB. Man, what a loss, huh? I'll tell you what, I don't like to give flowers to AFC West teams too much, but Surtain, great athlete. Cortland Sutton, great athlete. Everyone else, the Broncos to me. But, man, I'll tell you, we're looking good. Raiders are playing well. And I really think that pivotal moment was when Gardner Minshew overthrows Brock Bowers, pick 6. Other than that, I think the game's in hand. But once that happened, it just seemed to go downhill from there. They threw Aiden O'Connell in. I think you're not going to do better with Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell because our O-line's just not doing their part. Every time you see Gardner Minshew trying to make time, there's a blitz coming down the middle. Yeah, it is what it is, man. Just kind of trying to give you the recap of how I felt it went. Devontae Adams, not there, obviously. Trade him away. Hey, trade him away, man. Get a couple good draft picks if you could. Like you said, you try to give those draft picks now as capital to try to move up in the draft. And we try to get our guy because, Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell ain't our guys. But at the same time, we don't have the O-line to support him. So there's a few holes to fill. We'll see how the next coming weeks go, but man, that was a tough one.
Adam, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. I agree, man. The momentum shifted right out the building with that pick 6. It's like basically momentum was the football. Minshew threw it, Pat Surtain took it, ran with it, and never turned around, right? And momentum was gone. The Raiders never recovered. As you heard in segment number 2, I think that AP will ultimately name Aiden O'Connell the quarterback, right, just to see what he has for the next 4 games, which he should, right? And then I think everyone will have a great idea of what the Raiders truly do have or don't have at the quarterback position. And that's really the only way you can find out and evaluate is through game reps. And I know some people will say, oh, well, you saw last year. You saw what Aiden O'Connell could. Look, it was another system. It was obviously something different. You saw what AP as a head coach did last year as well, and it hasn't looked that great for him so far this year either. So he, I think, did a much better job coaching last season as the interim than he has so far. And that's troubling. That's the reason why a lot of people, including myself, say don't hire the interim. But as you very well know, if you've been listening to this show long enough, I was all in on AP, still am on AP. I think he's, I still think he's the right guy for the job. He's just got to continue to build. He's got to continue to work. He's got to continue to coach better, right? And make some better decisions. And, again, a lot of it could have to do with the quarterback play. Maybe he might be able to just say that that's what's going wrong, but that's not the excuse why the defense isn't playing up to the level that they're supposed to either. So there's a lot to go around. There's a lot of fingers that could be pointed, a lot of blame to go around when it comes to the silver and black. Thank you so much for your call. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a pretty lengthy text from Raider 909. If the Raiders keep claiming they want to be, if the Raiders keep claiming they want to be a run team, why didn't we keep Josh Jacobs and get a monster fullback to do old school pound and ground? Plus, now letting Davante Adams get away, AP should have jumped. AP should have jumped on Russell Wilson for free to school Aiden O'Connell. He had JJ, Davante Adams, and Russell Wilson ready to go to war with him, and he let Tom Telesco sell him a pipe dream and flush the dream team. Let's not forget about the top of the line OC that also got away. I hope the pipe dream AP bought into doesn't turn into a nightmare, and he's pounding the pavement after the season. Russell Wilson plus JJ any day over Gardner Minshew plus Zamir White. I think AP has powerhouse stars handed on a silver platter and went for the old grass is greener on the other side. Tom Telesco Mirage. That's from Raiders 909. There's a lot there. Look, Tom Telesco was not going to pay Josh Jacobs the money that Josh Jacobs wanted. Josh Jacobs was already mad when the situation happened with the previous staff, Dave Ziegler and company, when he didn't get that long-term contract extension. The deal that he ended up signing in Green Bay wasn't that great, but Tom Telesco was not going to pay him that kind of money. That's just what it is. Russell Wilson was not an AP guy. That was not a guy that Russell Wilson, that AP would have wanted anything to do with. AP said he hand selects the people that are in the locker room and the people he wants in and doesn't want in. I don't think it has anything to do with Tom Telesco selling him a dream. I think it has to do with AP having a certain image of what he wants in that locker room, and those are the guys that are in the locker room. Of course, he wanted JJ, but that money wasn't going to be spent there. It just wasn't. And then as far as Cliff Kingsbury goes, him not being there, look, the Raiders gave him a 2-year contract offer. He wanted 3, which I get, and that's not really AP's fault. That's not really Tom Telesco's fault. That's whoever decided that the coaching staff was, or that guy on the coaching staff was going to get 2 years. To me, it makes me feel like all the coaches have 2-year deals. That's what that feels like to me, is because usually you line up your coaches to have the same amount of time as your head coach. So to me, and I don't know the length of AP's coaching contract. I don't know any of the coaches' contracts, what their length is. But just like in Dallas with head coach Mike McCarthy, he hired Mike Zimmer to be the defensive coordinator, and McCarthy was going into the last year of his deal, so they only gave Mike Zimmer a 1-year deal. So he's a defensive coordinator on a 1-year job contract because they don't know if they're going to ever extend McCarthy, if they're going to let him walk after the deal. They don't know. So they only gave him 1 year. So usually they line these coaches up. So probably only gave all the coaches 2 years to see if this thing works out, because Mark Davis has invested a lot of money in coaches that are no longer on the staff. So, the whole, woulda, coulda, shoulda, this, that, I mean, that's great. But the Raiders are 5 games into the season. They're 2-3. So none of that really at this stage of the game matters. It's all about this team moving forward and what they're going to do. But thanks for the text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Red Raider. He's calling to talk about Luke Getsy as the offensive coordinator and really the offense in general. Here he is, Red Raider.
Q, Red Raider again calling in. Man, what in the heckle was that? Offense is anemic. What is going on? I said this, I called last week, and I didn't make the show. It is what it is. I get it. It's cool. Why did we not? I said it last week. Luke Getsy. Why did we go after him? Why didn't we not even try to pursue Eric Bieniemy, who was formerly the Chiefs' offensive coordinator when they were on their Super Bowl runs? He has 2 Super Bowl rings as the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs when they had Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes and were freaking slinging it everywhere. And we got this anemic guy from the Chicago Bears, Luke Getsy. Davante Adams was freaking supporting him in the beginning of the season. Oh, he was the guy. He was there when we were in the Packers making those runs, and now he don't even want to stay there. Obviously, something's wrong. Something ain't working. I believe in AP. I want to believe he's our guy, because after that Josh McDaniels thing, it was a fiasco. But dude, we have no offense. What do you? I know we can't get our running game, but why would we not go after Eric Bieniemy is my question after just 4 weeks of just straight non-offense. It's got to be a clear-cut situation. But anyways, Q, love listening to the show every day. Listen to you every day while I work. And keep doing you, man. Appreciate it, Raider Nation.
Thank you for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And yeah, I don't know about Eric Bieniemy. And what I mean by that is I know he has a past, right? I know he has a past. I mean, look, you can Google it and you can find it. He has a lot of stuff in the past, but he's also coached in the league for a long time. Like you mentioned, he was offensive coordinator for the Chiefs for a very long time. They were very successful. He interviewed for many head coaching jobs, didn't get it, goes to Washington and is the offensive coordinator and the associate head coach there with Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera gets fired, he gets fired, and now he's at UCLA. So I don't know if it's just the past. I don't know if his interviewing's not very good. I don't know. Like, I would be lying to you if I told you the reason why Eric Bieniemy did not get a conversation with the Raiders and why he hasn't even got a job in the NFL. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that. But, you know, the other thing, when you're talking about Luke Getsy and the offense, like, he has so much to prove. And we said that before the season started, right? Because he wasn't a very good offensive coordinator when he was in Chicago. And the question was it a Luke Getsy thing? Was it a Justin Fields thing? Was it a combination of the two? I tend to believe it was a combination of both. I'm still not sold that Justin Fields is a great quarterback. I know some of Raider Nation wanted the Raiders to go get him. I wasn't one of those that was interested in him. I just think that he's a really good athlete, not a really good quarterback. And I think you need to have a really good quarterback to thrive in the National Football League. So, we'll see. We'll see what Luke Getsy. He has a lot to prove. The next few games, if AP does decide to make the call to Aiden O'Connell, we'll see what he could do with him, right? But so far, the play calling has been, I don't even want to say average, because I think the only game that was average was Cleveland, when it was okay, right? But on Sunday against Denver, I thought it was really bad. But thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Danny from Mesa, Arizona. It says, well, I expected a much closer game, and yet we failed to perform to our level. After that pick six, momentum completely shifted. Gardner missed Bowers on 2 potential touchdown throws, one being that crucial pick six. It's still early, but we can't fall apart now. Time to give the kid his shot, and by the kid, I mean Officer Farva, a.k.a. Aiden O'Connell. I did see him try to be a bit more mobile, so there's some glimpses, but let's see what happens. Can't do any worse, right? Thanks for all that you do, and still, Raider Nation for life. Let's go. That's Danny from Mesa, Arizona, and yeah, I'm with you, right? And look, Gardner Minshew, one of the big things about him that, you know, I liked was the fact that he could use his legs, and he really hasn't. Through 5 games, he hasn't really done that too much. Picked up a couple first downs with his feet on Sunday, but that was really it. And, you know, for the misses that he's had and just not being very good, I mean, that's just kind of what it is, right? So, yeah, I'm with you. As I said in segment number 2, I definitely think it's O'Connell time, and I do think at some point when AP talks today, depending on what time you're listening to this, I think he's going to name Aiden O'Connell the starting quarterback moving forward. But thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate you. I got a call from the 931. I couldn't get his name, but he's calling to talk about the game, the overall feeling of the season, the QBs, coordinators, and also Antonio Pierce. Here he is. Call from the 931.
Hey, Q. We might as well count this as a washed-up season, because with these quarterbacks, we're not going anywhere. And with Luke Getsy as the offensive coordinator, we're not going anywhere. And more than likely, AP's probably going to be gone if he doesn't make some major changes and steps up and starts taking part also on this offense. Got to stop concentrating on the defense. Got to learn about that offense. If you want to be a head coach, you got to know both X's and O's on offense and defense. I'm saying hopefully this week we trade Adams, get that cancer out of here. Hopefully trade him to someone like the Falcons, maybe trade Adams and a second-round pick for Michael Penix, or even go to Detroit and see what it would take to trade them, Devontae Adams, for Herndon Hooker and maybe another pick. Maybe we swap picks. we got to do something, or I can't keep watching this. I've been a diehard Raiders fan since the late 70s. I can't keep doing this. But anyways, thanks for everything you do, Q, and go Raiders.
Thanks so much for the call. You got to let me know your name next time so I can shout you out, not just shout out your area code, but I do appreciate the call. And look, I don't think the Falcons have any interest in trading Penix, right? I don't think that they would have drafted him number 8 overall if they were interested in trading him. I just don't see that at all. Now, when it comes to Detroit and Hendon Hooker, maybe. All right, maybe they'd be interested. I don't know. Honestly, I don't think the quarterback position gets changed or resolved at all this season. I don't think the quarterback position gets resolved or gets even looked at until after the season, right? Whether that's in free agency or the draft or a combination of the two. I just don't see anything happening right now with the quarterback position. And honestly, I'm very much in the camp of go to the draft, go get your quarterback, go draft the guy that you believe is going to be your franchise quarterback, build around him, and go from there. Build the offense so you don't have to go into preseason and have a quarterback battle. Go into it knowing what you have, and you're going to build around that guy, whoever it is, right? I mean, look, there's plenty of guys that I'm looking at. Cam Ward from Miami, I think is fantastic. Jalen Milroe from Alabama, I know they just lost, but I like Jalen Milroe. I think he's developing well under Kalen DeBoer. Shador Sanders is very intriguing to me. I think he's a good quarterback. I think that him and Vegas would be an interesting pairing, to say the least. Saw him talking to Mark Davis on Friday at the Aces game here in Vegas, so there's that. Quinn Ewers in Texas is a good quarterback. He's injured quite a bit, though, so there's that. Miller Moss, the USC quarterback? I think he's a pretty good quarterback as well. I mean, there's options. Let's put it like that. There's going to be options out there, and a lot of teams already got their quarterbacks last year in the draft. So those teams that are probably going to be picking at the top of the draft won't need quarterbacks, and if they're there and the Raiders need to trade up to go get one, they'll probably have a lot better opportunity to trade up this time than they did last time. So thanks so much for that call. I do appreciate you. Obviously, you heard me talk about Getsy already. He's definitely struggling as offensive coordinator, and AP has to win games, right? The fun times are over, right? The honeymoon's over. He's got to win games. It's just like that. We'll take one more text. It's pretty lengthy. We'll close out the show. Javi Juan from San Diego. He says, these are tumultuous times for the Raiders. They started off hot with that Minshew to Bowers pass and touchdown the first drive, but the team looked like it ran out of gas pretty quickly. And that 100-yard return for a touchdown from Surtain just drove a steal through the heart of the team. You could see it. I might be mistaken, but the defense didn't seem to be able to stop the Broncos' offense at all. Crosby was there, but he wasn't, from my perspective. Maybe due to his injury, but I don't feel like we saw Max at 100% today. And the way the Broncos' offense just manhandled us pretty much every time they got the ball further verifies his point of view. And on to all the penalties the Raiders racked up this game, and you've got the Raiders doing Raider things again. Is this evidence of the Adams controversy causing distractions for the team? Whatever's going on, our Raiders got to get their stuff together quick, fast, and in a jiffy. I don't think I'll be wasting my time watching the game next week. That's from Javi Juan from San Diego. Thanks for the text. I appreciate you, and I'm sure by the time the game comes around on Sunday against the Steelers, you'll be ready to watch the game again. I could be wrong, but it's easy following a loss to say that you're not going to be watching, but I'm sure by the time the game comes around, you'll be ready in action to watch the game. But with all that being said, I don't think the Davante Adams issue is causing the team to not be very good. I just think that the team ultimately is not very good, right? I mean, I just think that's what it is. They haven't been able to put it together. They haven't been able to show who they are, what their identity is, what they have at the quarterback position. Like you heard me say, I think it's time for Aiden O'Connell to be the quarterback and see what he's got. And then, you make decisions on the team in the bye week, right? Week 10, which happens to be the same week of the trade deadline. Max was out there. The defense was playing well early, but after that pick 6, everything changed. Everything. Offense, defense, special teams. Look how much yardage they gave up on special teams, kick returns, to the point where Carlson just started kicking the ball out of the back of the end zone. Like, nope, you can take it at the 30. Like, everything changed once that pick 6 happened. The soul, as I mentioned, left the Raiders with that pick 6. So thanks for the text. I do appreciate you. We'll see how they bounce back. They've got a home game. They've got the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up. So we'll see what that looks like. So far, the Raiders are 2-0 against the AFC North. So I guess if you're looking for silver linings, that's it, as they got the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are also from the AFC North. That's that. But that's going to do it for today's show. Again, Antonio Pierce is supposed to speak around 11 o'clock this morning at the Intermountain Health Performance Center. Again, I won't be there. I'll be on my radio show. Well, I'll be filling in on a radio show, Carlin vs. Joe, 9 a.m. to noon Pacific time on ESPN. But Of course, we'll be talking about it tomorrow. We'll get back to calls and texts, more conversation, especially if Antonio Pierce does make the change. And even if he doesn't make the change, we'll have plenty of conversation as well. Until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.